Bleeding purple and gold from the heart of Los Angeles. This is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. So much to talk about in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers right now. As always, gotta love this team. There's always a ton of amazing things going on. Before I get to that though, I've got a favor to ask from all of you out there. I know we've got a lot of longtime listeners, people who've been listening to this podcast pretty much from day one, and I'm super grateful for all of you for doing that and for sticking with us. But I've got a quick favor to ask. I need you guys to take a survey. All right, it's super brief. We'll take you seriously like 15 seconds to do, but it helps us out with our advertising, helps us out with making sure that we can pay the bills and all of that, and helps us gear our advertising in the right way. So if you wouldn't mind, please do this. Go to bit.ly/Lakers survey. That's bit.ly/Lakers survey. Would seriously help me out. I would really appreciate it if you guys could go there. Take the survey real quick. Again, take you probably 15, 20 seconds to do it, and you'll be supporting us, supporting this show. So again, really appreciate it. That's bit.ly/Lakers survey. If you could do it from your smartphone. Do it right now while I'm still talking. You continue listening. Do it from your phone. Again, bit.ly/Lakers survey. All right, guys. So a lot going on in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers. Plenty to talk about. We still need to talk about this whole deal with the Phoenix Suns and Trevor Ariza because now some more stuff has happened. We're going to talk a little bit about Brandon Ingram and his role now that he's starting to come back, or he's going to be coming back real soon. We're going to be talking a little bit about Lonzo Ball, some of the other things going on. And joining me today from Lakers Nation is Jas Kang. You can follow him on Twitter at JazzKang21. Jas, thanks so much for hopping on with me, man.
Anytime, man. We're becoming like best friends. It's becoming a regular occurrence between us talking Lakers. So always look forward to it.
So if you guys are listening to this and you just are listening to the podcast right now, Jas and I host on our Facebook live feed after every Lakers games. We host the Lakers Nation post-game show. So we break down everything. And in fact, it's really, really cool because it's very interactive. We take your questions, we take your comments live, and we address them on the air. You get to see what we look like and everything because it's video and all that. So it's a totally different medium. So yeah, we do that. So if you guys haven't, if you're just listening to our podcast or just going to LakersNation.com, head over to the Lakers Nation Facebook page. After every single game, we hop on there, we go live, and we break down the game. We take your questions, your comments. We'll talk about trade rumors. We'll talk about horrible officiating. We'll talk about everything that happened during the game itself, everything in between, whatever your comments are. You throw them at us, and we get into a whole discussion on it. So again, guys, go check that out. It's a lot of fun. And Jas, it's always a blast going on there and doing that. And I'm glad now we get to expand into the podcast.
Yeah, the people who are listening to, I don't know if you want to see our faces though. It's not a pretty sight, but definitely, if you can, have it on the background so you can hear what we're talking about, and engage with us all the time. We always look forward to taking comments from people who are watching. So it's always a good thing. Yeah,
I mean, hey, video did kill the radio star, but still,
it did.
You can get a look at us and join in the conversation. So that's a really cool part about it. So Jas, I had this whole plan for today's show, all these different things that we were going to talk about, and we still are. But then this little bit of news that kind of irked me, and I know it irked a lot of Lakers fans, came out. So the Phoenix Suns, right, instead of doing a deal with the Lakers, and we know they had that whole debacle where that 3-team deal broke down over Dillon Brooks versus Marshawn Brooks because the Memphis Grizzlies and Phoenix Suns couldn't figure out which player was which. And so that was a mess. The Suns wind up trading Trevor Ariza not to the Lakers. They instead trade him to the Washington Wizards, and they trade him in exchange for Austin Rivers and Kelly Oubre. And now word breaks that they are buying out and waiving Austin Rivers. So Rivers, who is a guard, who the Suns actually could probably use because their guard rotation is really thin, they buy out. Instead, they keep Kelly Oubre. The Phoenix Suns already have a lot of wings. They have Michael Bridges. They've got TJ Warren. They've got Josh Jackson. They've got all this logjam of small forwards, and the guy they keep is Kelly Oubre. So they're basically trading Trevor Ariza for just Kelly Oubre straight up. Jas, I know Lakers fans are kind of annoyed by this because it seems like the Lakers offer that's rumored to be KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and a second rounder that seems like a stronger offer to me.
Yeah, you're right. 100% was a stronger offer. I mean, when the rumors started coming out and guys like Woj and Shams who are really plugged in are saying, all right, this looks like it's the wheels are turning and it's going to be a done deal. I started looking more into, all right, what is Ariza going to bring to the Lakers? And then as all this hesitation stuff started happening, and then you find out obviously Robert Sarver's involved, the owner of the Suns. Nothing's really surprising. It's a dumb decision. It's a dumb basketball decision. It's a dumb business decision on Phoenix's part. The team hasn't made the playoffs in 8 seasons, going to make it 9 this year. So for me, it's like, what else do you expect from a pathetic franchise like the Phoenix Suns?
I mean, you said it pretty well there. I mean, I'm not going to call them a pathetic franchise or anything, because I do have Suns people come on this show every once in a while, and I'd like to stay in their good graces. But hey, the results speak for themselves. They have not been very good recently. They've really been struggling, and now here they are being petty, basically. I mean, this is, from what we understand, Robert Sarver was putting his foot down and saying, no, I won't do a trade with the Lakers. Wait, unless they give us one of their young core, and the rumor is they wanted Josh Hart. Well, Josh Hart's better than Trevor Ariza right now, so of course the Lakers aren't going to do that deal. But the Suns basically decided that rather than give Ariza to the Lakers, because they already had the perception that they helped out the Lakers with the whole Tyson Chandler thing, because of that, they would rather take a worse deal for a player who plays a position that they don't need at all. To me, that's mind-boggling. I can't believe that an NBA team would make decisions in that way.
Yeah, that's again. I mean, that's like it's like going into a job and being like, hey, you know what? Give me the worst thing you could do and I'll take it. Like this guy, he really has no sense in this move. And you're right. You know what I mean? If it was a thing that they decided that they didn't want to help the Lakers out because of the Tyson Chandler thing. Again, I think Phoenix Suns fans should be pissed, because you're doing the fans who are paying a lot of money to come into games, night in and night out. You're doing them a disservice. And I don't really understand the motive behind that. I don't really it's different. If Phoenix and LA, if it was a 2009, 2010, where both teams were kind of vying to get out of the Western Conference, all right, you don't want to make a move to help out your rival at that point. I get it. But I mean, after all this time, first off, you decided to pony up the money to sign Trevor Ariza, which looking back now is a dumb decision. But if you're going to make a move for that, at least do something that's going to help your team. You're getting Kelly Oubre back. Okay, big deal. Like you mentioned, though, it's going to take, if Oubre does become a rotation guy, it's going to take away minutes from guys like Josh Jackson who need that time to develop. And on a team like Phoenix that's sitting at 7-24, the young pieces and the young core needs time to get there. And you're right, 100%. Like Josh Hart, better player right now than Trevor Ariza. I wouldn't give up Hart, Ingram. It doesn't matter who they ask for. There's nobody off that roster except for maybe Ayton and what's his name? Devin Booker. Yeah, his name slipped my mind there. But I mean, if you can get, I was going to say Brooks because we were talking about the whole thing. But Devin
then
Booker,
they might have traded him.
Yeah, exactly. Just made him. If you messed up that name, the Lakers would have gotten great. But if those are the only two guys that really you'd want on the team, but I think overall it just encapsulates the Phoenix Suns as a franchise, and it encapsulates Robert Sarver as an owner of that team. They haven't really done much over the last, like I said, decade basically. So surprising to me that you wouldn't want to improve your squad when you can. But again, it's just a sign of how poorly run that franchise is.
I mean, look, Oubre is a couple years younger than KCP, so I get that. But KCP is not old. KCP is 25. He's not an over the hill veteran or anything that is never going to stick with the team. He's a guy who maybe the Suns could look to keep. Maybe KCP wasn't thrilled with the idea of going to Phoenix. That's possible. I mean, his agent Rich Paul could have gotten involved there. We don't know all that was going on behind the scenes in that regard, but it seemed like KCP could have been a decent fit for them, or they could have looped in a third team to send KCP to and then gotten assets that were probably a little bit better than Oubre, or at least a better fit anyway. And Oubre is going to be a restricted free agent. So if they want to bring him back next year, it's not like they've got a few years on a team-friendly contract for him. They're going to have to pay for him this summer if they want to keep him. And knowing what wings are going for right now in the NBA, it's probably not going to be super cheap in order to keep Oubre around. Yeah, the Suns get a look at him. And yes, KCP is a free agent as well, and he's unrestricted, so they have a little bit less team control. So I get maybe there's a little bit of an argument there, but still, it feels like the Lakers offer was stronger, and it wasn't done because they're the Lakers. And I mean, I guess that's the price you pay for being a good franchise for so many years.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of teams look at the Lakers as a rival from teams like Portland, who I'm sure for the most part Lakers fans, other than that one great playoff series they had back in the 2000 season, nobody really, the Lakers right now don't have a traditional rival in the NBA in terms of, all right, you know what, like we've been good for so many years and we're battling back and forth. Other than the Celtics, you have the Warriors now that everybody wants to see those games, the Clippers. Not much of a rivalry in terms of historical success, but geographically. But the Sacramento Kings, they look at the Lakers as a rival. Like, no, they ain't. The Lakers are a great franchise. They have been. They're the best franchise to me in the NBA. So a team like Phoenix, who right now at this point should be looking to help itself as much as it can, should be making moves based off of who they think the rival is, because their rival right now, if you're looking at the NBA, really is in the Eastern Conference in terms of Atlanta and Chicago, teams who stink and can't win games. So again, I think it's just a bad move by the Suns. You're right in what you're saying that, hey, you know what? If you would have traded for KCP or moved him to a third team, at least that salaries off your books, just like Ariza's would have been anyways, and you got some sort of an asset with a second round pick. But a really confusing and to me dumb decision, because Austin Rivers, I think, is a better player than Kelly Oubre. So they're giving him up too, and saying basically because he's a vet and he might be a better fit with an older team. I think again that's just doing a disservice to Phoenix Suns fans, not only there but really all across the world who cheer for that team when their owner is not very good.
Well, the crazy thing is the Suns are actually, as of right now, they're on a 3-game win streak. So if they are tanking, and we know they are, I mean they're hoping for a high draft pick, but they could actually be playing themselves out of Zion Williamson, which is, I mean, absolutely insane that's where they're at right now. And then they're still making decisions that would bring them in a draft pick, and they're are deciding to not go for a deal that would bring them in a pick, a second round pick, which does have value. I mean, the Lakers have proven that you can find talent later in the draft and still make that work. I'm not down on Kelly Oubre or anything. I think that he's an interesting player. I think he's a guy that just never really got it together. He's a guy who never really panned out like people thought that he would. But still, he does have some upside and everything. So I can understand that. I'm not totally down on him. Hey, he averaged, 13 points a game for the Wizards, but that's playing 26 minutes. So pretty much just a scorer at this point. But you know what? I still think the Suns passed up a better offer just because they were the Lakers, and that's the way it goes sometimes. Before I move on to Brandon Ingram, interesting though, like if KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he was wanting out. He wanted out of Los Angeles. That's what we've heard is that Rich Paul, it was going around the league looking for a new home for KCP because he wants to be able to play more minutes. He wants to get an opportunity to start, to play more minutes because he's going to be a free agent this summer. And the Lakers are trying to make that happen. They're trying to oblige. So with that being the case, we could still see KCP on the move. And if they do move KCP, what are you looking to get in return? We could still see him being traded between now and February 7th.
I think you got to look at a team that isn't doing too well in the standings. I mean, we talked about it a couple times on the postgame show as well. If you can get a guy like Terrence Ross out of Orlando, who might not trade him because they are in the thick of things trying to get in the playoffs for the first time in a long time. Mm-hmm. But if you look at a team like Miami where, all right, they want to clear up some salary and they can take KCP back. But I think you have to look at getting a wing as well who might be a bit of an upgrade. Like KCP, not a bad shooter at all. You know what I mean? He actually makes, like the last game that they played against Washington, I mean, he was lighting it up. Don't get me wrong. You don't see that all the time. But
he was the only guy lighting it up.
He was the only guy. And again, you ain't going to win many games where he's where if he's your best player. But I mean, he's dropping 9 points a game off the bench. He's playing about half the game right now at 21 minutes. But his 3-point percentage has gone up. So I think if you can upgrade just the defensive end especially, and bring somebody who brings a little bit more offense, and not just strictly off of shooting jumpers, but maybe trying to get to the hole, creating some driving dishes and kicking it out for open threes. I think you have to look at upgrading that. But overall, he's had a pretty decent season. And I don't think he's a bad option off the bench. I just think that you could get a little bit better. What about you?
No, yeah. I mean, I think that you can't just let KCP walk. That's the one thing they can't do because they need the depth. They need that. They need what he provides, especially his shooting. And so that's why you're looking at trades. And so if they do trade KCP, you're almost certainly going to bring in somebody on an expiring deal. And that's why you look at Trevor Ariza. That's why we talk about Terrence Ross. We talk about Wayne Ellington, guys like that. So if you look around the league, you're probably looking for guys who are expiring in a deal for KCP, unless it's a bigger deal that has the Lakers sending out long-term salary or something like that, which would mean one of the young players or something. But for the most part, you're probably going to be looking at guys on expiring contracts that can still provide something and kind of replicate what KCP does to some degree, at least shoot, and provide some spacing. So I think that's what they're going to be looking for. If he does want out, I think eventually they do still trade him because Rich Paul he's KCP's agent, but he's also LeBron James's agent, and he's also Anthony Davis's agent. So if KCP does still want out, yeah, I think he's going to get moved because in the long run, you want to keep that agent happy. And who knows, maybe that leads to landing Anthony Davis down the road.
Well, let's be honest. Rich Paul has to keep LeBron James happy. So if LeBron James wants KCP traded, then KCP will get the boot for sure. But I agree with you. I think he will get moved if he's already having those feelings that he wants out. Before the trade deadline in early February, the Lakers probably do need to make a move there, and I think it'll help the team going forward. The 2 seed really to me right now, if the Warriors start getting into gear, the 2 seed is going to be right there for the taking with teams like Denver and OKC. I don't think the Clippers are going to sustain the pace that they're at. I think they could battle for a playoff spot, but I don't see them being a top 4 seed. So, I mean, for the Lakers right now, yeah, you might not be looking at, hey, we're trying to win a championship this year, although they kind of are in win now mode because you don't know when Father Time's going to hit LeBron. Mm-hmm. So if you can make a move that will not only kind of maybe, I think that there's really 2 options. One, make a move that's going to give you some flexibility still in the summertime where you can sign one of those big name free agents. Or 2, you add a young piece or a young player, but not messing with your original core, but adding somebody who might be under a manageable salary for the next 3-4 seasons that you can bring off the bench and be a little bit more of a better defender than KCP, as well as being a more of a slasher and a creator on the offensive end. I think that's a move that Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson definitely have to look at making.
Yeah, and if you can find that guy, you may have to part with some sort of future asset if it's a big upgrade from KCP. So you're talking about, you may be throwing in some kind of a pick, whether it's a second or a first or whatever. Although the rumor is that the Lakers are trying to keep their assets, as many as they can anyway, so that they can go after Anthony Davis. That's the big fish. If he declines the Supermax contract this summer with New Orleans, they basically have to trade him. And so then it's probably going to come down to Lakers versus Celtics for Anthony Davis. And I mean, the Celtics have a lot of assets to offer up. So the Lakers are going to be trying to hang on to as many as they can get. So we'll see kind of what they end up doing with KCP, what they do with some of these other young players as they look to build up their war chest and at the same time make a push for the playoffs. It's a delicate balancing act. With that in mind, let's talk Brandon Ingram. So our friend Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report, who's been on this show many times, he's amazing when it comes to breaking down the salary cap and just covering the Lakers. An awesome guy. He wrote a piece today about Brandon Ingram, and in it there was a quote from an unnamed NBA executive that believes that the Lakers will ultimately move Brandon Ingram, that they're going to trade him. So I guess first, Jess, let me just get your reaction to that, and then we can kind of go from that and talk a little bit about Brandon Ingram and his fit with this current Lakers team.
You know what? I was a little bit shocked to see that it's already kind of something that might be kind of bubbling underneath, that the Lakers are already maybe explored the idea of trading Brandon Ingram. I think Brandon Ingram definitely has the tools to be one day an all-star in the league. I don't want to say he's a perennial all-star, but I think he can make 4 or 5 all-star games if he reaches his maximum. Mm-hmm. The problem what we're seeing with Ingram right now is he just hasn't been a fit next to LeBron. It's clunky, especially in the offensive end. He just hasn't been as good as what we hoped. I mean, you're coming into the season, everybody was like, all right, you know what, LeBron's coming. You have Kuz, you have Lonzo Ball, but most importantly, you have Brandon Ingram. He's going to make the leap. He's going to be the guy who kind of take over the second in command on that roster. Mm-hmm. And he just hasn't been. He's just, he's struggling. His numbers aren't that great. He's only averaging 15 points a game, 4 boards and just over 2 assists, meaning he's not very efficient when he's not scoring. And even then, 15 points a game is nothing to be like, wow, you know what, we got this guy with the second round pick a couple of years ago. He's really starting to blossom. But I think that's something the Lakers really do have to pursue, and you're going to have to maximize the value for him, because if he keeps playing like this and you do another, 50 games or see another 50 games of this left throughout the rest of the season, teams are going to be hesitant to give up a lot to get a guy like Brandon Ingram. So if you have the option to, and you have to go all in to get Anthony Davis and he has to be a part of it, you got to do that now.
Right, but that's the thing. I mean, the Pelicans aren't going to be ready to deal him now, not until he declines that Supermax, if he declines it, because that's a lot of money to turn down. But if he declines it, that'll be next summer. So in the meantime, if Ingram is a piece that they're saving for Anthony Davis, then they need to build up his value. Or if not, then they need to trade him before the trade deadline and get back something that would be attractive to a team like the Pelicans or whoever at the trade time next summer. We're talking about after he declines that Supermax, if he does it. So there's a lot to consider here with Brandon Ingram. I still think that he's got another gear. He's got another level that we haven't seen. Obviously, he's been hurt. He's going to be coming back shortly. Could be coming back, actually, ironically, on Friday against the New Orleans Pelicans when the Lakers take them on. But Brandon Ingram hasn't fit with LeBron, just like you mentioned. I mean, just the fit has not been there. Instead, it's been Kyle Kuzma that has really stepped up and been the Robin to LeBron's Batman. We've seen him fill in that role quite a bit, whereas Brandon Ingram has just been an awkward fit. And I think a lot of that is because, and I actually wrote all about this for Lakers Nation, probably by the time you're listening to this, the article is probably published, but Brandon Ingram kind of does some of the same things that LeBron does or wants to do. Those types of things. He wants to hold the ball. He wants to drive into the paint. He wants to then kick it out to an open shooter or pull up from the mid-range if he can't get all the way to the rim. He's a guy who isn't going to just ping the ball around. He isn't happy just cutting off the ball like Kuzma will do or spotting up from behind the arc like Kuzma will also do. So Ingram is this awkward fit for the Lakers right now. And like you said, he was the second overall pick just a couple seasons ago. So there's still value there. And trying to maximize that is not going to be easy. So if you're going to ship out a guy like Brandon Ingram, which I don't know that that's the right answer just yet, but if you're going to ship him out, you almost have to get either a star or the pieces that you need in order to land a star if you're going to trade him. I mean, he's a valuable piece. Hey, everybody, we're going to take a quick break so we can talk about Fanatics. We're so thrilled to have Fanatics as today's podcast sponsor. Fanatics is the world's largest collection of officially licensed fan gear from all of the league's teams and players that you love. They have the best selection, including trusted brands like Nike and Jordan Brand, exclusive designs by Fanatics, and autographed collectibles from today's biggest stars. They also have a really cool thing, and that's their Jersey Assurance Program. If you buy a player's jersey and that player is traded within 90 days, Fanatics will replace your jersey with another player from your favorite team or your favorite player's jersey with a new team. So very, very cool situation. In case something happens, trades happen within the NBA. We know that goes down. The trade deadline's coming up on February 7th. So if the guy whose jersey you buy gets traded, you are protected. Now, we have hundreds of Lakers products with Fanatics, including Nike and Fanatics branded fast break jerseys for LeBron James and your favorite Lakers players. Join Fanatics Rewards today and earn fan cash on every purchase. You can support our podcast and get free shipping on your order through December 31st by shopping Fanatics through our link at fanatics.com/LakersNation. Again, we always appreciate it when you guys support the companies that support us. So head over to fanatics.com/LakersNation for all your Lakers gear. Gear up for the holiday season, fanatics.com/LakersNation.
Yeah, when you look at that Bleacher Report article that you had mentioned, I mean, if you look at the numbers, the offensive rating with him on the floor is like 7 points less than it is without him when Hart's starting in his place. I mean, and for the offensive rating is, for people who don't know, it's how many points the team averages over 100 possessions with that group. So, I mean, they're offensively, they're not, and defensively, they're even better with Hart in Ingram's place too. So I think they're in a tough spot in terms of trying to build up his value. I don't think you could really do that without hurting the team at this point. So, with Ingram, it's just been his game is very. It's almost like the way the NBA was 5-6 seasons ago, where all right, you know what, a lot of iso ball, give it to the wing. do a couple of screens or high screen and roll and let him try and create off that. But he's just not that good of an outside shooter. And his athleticism, though he's long and lanky, he's not really the type of guy who's going to get to the hoop and make an overpowering play to either get to the free throw line or finish at the rim. So, we've seen very small flashes of it so far this year. But I think for him, the key for the Lakers is going to be trying to find the right fit. And I think bringing him off the bench is going to be the best option. I mean, not because he doesn't deserve to play 25, 30 minutes a game, but just to let him get in his comfort zone where the offense is running through him with the second unit. And then hopefully that translates to being a little bit more comfortable when LeBron's out there, because as it happens with any team that LeBron's been on, it's his show. So you got to learn how to adjust to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's for those reasons that I'm becoming more and more sold with the idea of using Ingram as kind of the man, the guy in that bench unit. Letting him be the guy to kind of run the show. Then you stagger his minutes with LeBron as much as you possibly can, and you let Brandon Ingram do his thing out there with the bench. And I think that would actually be a really nice solution to the problem if he's willing to do that. And we don't know if he is or not. In the past, he said that he's not coming off the bench. And so the Lakers have been playing him at shooting guard. It's been a little bit of an awkward fit there. The one concern here is that his 3-point percentage has dropped. He's all the way down to 32% right now. He shot 39% last season, so had a lot of people excited about that increased 3-point shooting. Now that it's dropped back down, he needs to be able to gun from the outside. That's something that the Lakers need very badly. If he was shooting a little bit better, then maybe you could make the argument that he would fit with the first unit. But as it is right now, he just doesn't. And it's because of the style of play that he likes, and it's because of what he brings. The defense isn't afraid of him standing behind the arc the way they are with Josh Hart, who's been shooting extremely well. I believe he's at 38% from three right now. They will worry about Josh Hart standing beyond the arc. They'll worry about getting back to him. Brandon Ingram, not so much. So it's creating a whole different flow in the offensive end. And so for those reasons, I think that, you've got to try to look to see if Brandon Ingram could potentially come off the bench for the Lakers, or at least play most of his minutes with that bench unit. Now, if they do decide to move Brandon Ingram, I think one other challenge is this. I don't want to speak too ill of Ingram because he's got a lot of versatility to him. And I think there's value to that. When you're looking at this Lakers team and you look at what Brandon Ingram can do, he can plug so many different holes. If you need a backup point guard, he can do that. You need somebody to fill in for a shooting guard. He can do that. Say Josh Hart gets hurt. Brandon Ingram can slide back into that spot and he's not going to hurt you. He can play small forward. He can play power forward. He can switch like crazy on defense. His arms don't end. He's about the only guy in the NBA, just about, there's only a few of them, that actually make Reed Richards jealous. Right? That's the reality here with Brandon Ingram's wingspan. So when you've got a guy like that, that's got that kind of versatility, I think that's a really nice thing for a coach to have, as difficult as the fit is. So I still have some hope that the Lakers are going to work things out with Brandon Ingram and that it's at some point things are going to click. But if they don't, I mean, you almost have to find a trade at some point to get the value out, because otherwise, like you said, if he continues to struggle, his value is just going to drop.
Yeah, you look at his PI rating, like the player impact estimate. The guy's sitting second last on the team, but his usage rate is virtually tied for second with Kyle Kuzma behind LeBron. And so he's not being very efficient. And like you're saying, like it's just the way he's not a great 3-point shooter, so he doesn't really space the floor for LeBron. And he doesn't have that game like Kyrie where Kyrie will get to the hole and then you'd see LeBron, doing a backdoor cut to get the big dunk or a layup or go to the foul line. And I think that's ultimately what's going to hurt Brandon Ingram's value going forward. And, right now, if he's not the right fit for this roster and he's going to be averaging 15 points a game for the rest of the season, you're better off exploring getting rid of him sooner than later, because like you said, his value as you get, further into the season and into the summer, it's just going to be at an all-time low, and you're not going to maximize what you can get for him for a team who's really looking to win a championship over the next 4 years.
Now, I do want to add this in too. Brandon Ingram historically has started slow. He did it at Duke. He did it his rookie year. He did it his sophomore year. He hits his stride right around, not quite this point of the season, but in a few weeks. January, once the calendar turns to January, once we start getting towards February, that's when he normally steps up his game. And I don't know what it is, but that's when he seems to get rolling. So we'll see here. When he comes back from injury, he may take a big leap forward. That could be coming. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed and hoping that that is what's going to happen, because I do still like Brandon Ingram a lot. I still like what he can bring. But again, if he's going to turn it around, I think that that's going to happen soon. And if not, maybe we do see him in discussions before that February 7th trade deadline. Let's talk a little bit about this. So not only do you have Brandon Ingram coming back, and his fit has been kind of iffy with LeBron James, but Lonzo Ball. Now, the other night, he and LeBron James became the first Lakers since Magic and Kareem in 1982 to both record triple-doubles in the same game. And that was nice. That was Lonzo's highlight of the season so far. Right? That was his peak of the season at this point. But aside from that, are you disappointed in Lonzo Ball? Because I'm seeing a lot of Lakers fans that haven't been so thrilled with him this season.
I haven't been. I think he's right. He's kind of right on point with where he needs to be. He never had this dominating game, and I think some Lakers fans wanted to see that from him coming in, and he would completely take over the league and drop 25, 30 a game and, dish out 10, 12 dimes and get 7, 8 rebounds. I never really saw that from him at UCLA too. I saw him more as a guy who creates. I saw him more as a guy who's able to kind of run the fast break and get the ball in his hand on the outlet and push the pace. I think the only part where I would say I would want Lonzo to be better is just overall with his shooting, and being a little bit more aggressive. But I mean, he's only averaging 8 points a game this year, which is not good considering he's playing 28 minutes a night. But you do want to see his numbers be a little bit better. But I think it takes a couple of seasons, especially for a guy who's a point guard, who's now coming into a position where he's not going to have the ball as much. I mean, I look at him, they're not similar totally in game, but even a guy like Mike Conley, who's developed into being one of the better point guards in the NBA, you look at his first few seasons in Memphis, he was by no means great, but I mean, his career, he steadily got better and better and better. So I think playing with LeBron ultimately will be something beneficial for Lonzo, but the sooner he starts having more confidence in himself and starts being like, hey, you know what, I can, and that we saw that game on Saturday, where he was kind of against Charlotte, where he had the ball in his hand a lot, he was pushing the pace, he was finding other guys other than LeBron, and he was able to dictate the game, more than just kind of sitting there like, hey, where's LeBron standing at the top of the 3-point line, or as soon as he gets it on the wing, he's looking to pass it right away. Where he's creating, I think that's when he's at his best. So I mean, I wouldn't say I've been disappointed by Lonzo. I just haven't been. He hasn't reached the expectations I think I had for him, as well as a lot of Lakers fans. And Magic Johnson set that for him too, right? At the opening press conference. So
he's going to break all Magic's records. Right?
Yeah. You can't be putting pressure like that on a young kid. You know what I mean? That was a bad move by Magic. So that's one of the rare missteps Magic Johnson has made, is kind of saying those kind of things about Lonzo and setting the expectations that high. But you see flashes from Lonzo, and he does a lot of good things on the defensive end too. So he's got to keep getting better and better. But once you get to year 3 or 4, and you're a top 3 pick, if you're not producing, you're gonna kind of get that label that you were a total disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Lonzo and you look at his numbers. If he was shooting 38% from 3 and 72% from the line, and he was getting to the line a little more often, I think that would completely change the narrative on Lonzo. If he was a real threat from behind the arc, like we expected coming out of UCLA that he was going to be, even with his funky looking shot, and he was getting himself to the line every now and then using his speed, I think the other parts of his game, the passing that fits really well with LeBron, the defense that he shows, his ability to rebound, all of those things, I think if he was able to connect from outside, and so he's scoring, if he hits an extra 3 or 2 per game, so we're talking about, maybe he's scoring 13 points a night. If he's doing that and defenses have to account for him, then it changes the whole perception. I know that's a big leap from what Lonzo's doing right now, but if he's doing those things, then I think the heat would be off of him. But one of the things that's been a problem for him this year is De'Aaron Fox. And I know the joke was forever that Lonzo was dodging De'Aaron Fox or De'Aaron Fox was dodging Lonzo because they were always hurt. They never seemed to play against each other. But De'Aaron Fox was not great as a rookie. And there was some debate during the draft. Do you pick Lonzo? Do you pick De'Aaron Fox? Right? If you're going to pick a point guard, which one do you want? Do you want the guy who's super, super fast like Fox? Or do you want the guy who can kind of control the offense and his passing is supposedly on another level? Which guy do you want? Well, the Lakers want Lonzo Ball. And now this year, De'Aaron Fox is tearing it up. He's looking incredible for the Sacramento Kings. Looks like one of the top players out of that year's draft class. And so I think that's part of the problem too, is you see a guy that was selected after Lonzo, in addition to Jason Tatum, who is now, but a guy in Fox who plays the same position and is outperforming Lonzo. So I think that's part of the problem with the perception around Lonzo Ball right now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the top five, even Lauri Markkanen, not a bad player in Chicago too, but Dennis Smith, they had some good players in that draft, especially in the top five. Donovan Mitchell, another guy, and then you have Jason Tatum taken after Lonzo. Obviously, you got Markelle Fultz, who's a bust right now, looking like it more and more.
Yeah, hey, but that's true.
That at least they didn't get stuck with him. So I mean, the draft has always been a bit of a crapshoot as it is. I think everybody knows that. But I think that does hurt him. Like you said, I mean, yeah, when you see guys like De'Aaron Fox, guys like Jason Tatum doing what they're doing, Donovan Mitchell, Dennis Smith also playing pretty well. It's like, all right, Lonzo should be having a little bit more of an impact on the game. The issue is, and I do want to say this, like, Lonzo's stats are down a bit from last season in terms of points. He was putting up 10 points a game last year. His assists are down a little bit, rebounding down a little bit. So, and I think that comes with playing with a guy like LeBron. I mean, you have to adjust to going from, all right, I'm one of the key three guys on this team, really, with Kuz and Ingram, and we're trying to build something here together, to, oh, shoot, we got the best player in the NBA joining our team. He has the ball a lot in his hands. So you have to learn to adjust to that. And you know what? We're not really, not halfway through the season yet. So he needs to be a little bit more assertive, I think, especially on the offensive end. And I think it would help LeBron, too, ultimately, in terms of energy and as you get later into the year. And this is something I want to see Luke Walton adjust to, too. Get the outlet into Lonzo's hand, and let's see what he can do when he pushes the pace. He still makes some gorgeous passes. I mean, he does look like magic at points sometimes on the break where you're like, wow, this guy, how did he find him, or how did he make that pass? So put him into a position where he could succeed a little bit more, and maybe you'll start to see that offensive side come. But yeah, he's got to be a little bit more consistent with his jump shot. His free throw shooting is terrible. So those are, I think, although they're not universally tied together, guys who are usually good three-point shooters can usually hit the free throws too. So that's something he's got to get in the gym and work on a little bit more. Otherwise, LeBron's going to look at him next year too and say, all right, man, time to ship you out of LA too, and send him to somewhere like Detroit where he's not going to be happy.
Well, and that's a good point there. First of all, you mentioned that he's got to get in the gym and work on this stuff. He was hurt over the summer, right? So this is a guy who has not been able to get in the gym and work on these things, like De'Aaron Fox. His outside shooting's gotten a lot better. He worked on that stuff over the summer. Lonzo Ball didn't have that opportunity because he was hurt. He had knee surgery, and so he couldn't really improve his game. And that's why I think we've seen him, as the season has worn on, he's gotten a little bit better just incrementally because he's been able to sort of play his way back into shape. So I think that's certainly a factor here too. I think we also have to consider that when we talk about guys like this, like Lonzo Ball, like Brandon Ingram, these guys are just barely 21. These guys are super, super young. So they need time. They need time to develop. They're not ready to go right now. And I also want to throw this out. We've heard basically nothing from LeVar Ball all season. And I don't know.
Thank God.
Right? Yeah, right. I don't know if that's the LeBron effect or whatever. But imagine the heat that would be on Lonzo Ball if we were getting like daily quotes from LeVar Ball while all this is going on. I mean, it would take things to a whole new level. We're going to take a quick break to talk about Robinhood. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos all commission free. They strive to make financial services work for everyone, not just the wealthy. They have a non-intimidating way for stock market newcomers to invest for the first time with true confidence. It's extremely simple and intuitive. They have a clear design and data presented in an easy to digest way. Guys, I use the Robinhood app. I am on it every single day, checking out my stocks. It is very, very easy, very simple. I was very new to the whole stock thing, and it can be intimidating. So having an app like Robinhood that's so simple and so easy was a big thing for me, and I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. It literally is on my phone. I use it every single day. Make sure you guys check it out. They have no commissions. Other brokerages will charge up to $10 for every trade. Robinhood doesn't charge commission fees. Trade stocks, keep all of your profits. Again, super easy to use. They have easy to understand charts and market data. They have all kinds of great articles letting you know about the details of each individual stock. They also have a web platform that lets you view stock collections of the 100 most popular stocks in different sectors like entertainment, social media, and they have curated categories like stocks for companies that have female CEOs and all kinds of different things. So they have also analyst ratings letting you know what they recommend to do, whether it's buy, hold, sell for every single stock. So again, it makes the process super easy because all of that information is right there at your disposal. You can learn by doing. You can learn how to invest as you build your portfolio. You discover new stocks, and track your favorite companies with your personalized news feed. And you can set up custom notifications for price movements so you never miss the right time to invest. And the best part, Robinhood is giving my listeners a free stock. That's right, free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help you build your portfolio. All you have to do is go sign up at lakers.robinhood.com. Again, that's lakers.robinhood.com. Go check it out. Start investing. It's a great app to use, lakers.robinhood.com.
Oh, for sure. If you don't think that, in my opinion, I don't know this for a fact at all, but you're damn right. LeBron had something to say to Magic and probably had to talk with Lonzo too. Like, listen, your daddy's not getting involved in what's going on this team. And you have seen LeVar been uncharacteristically quiet the entire time. And I think that did wear on Lonzo a bit last season. When I was in the locker room and then I got to cover a couple of games last season and seeing him, he's a pretty calm kid. He's not one of those guys who it seems like he's erratic and a little bit crazy. I mean, he likes to have fun. If you follow him on Instagram, you can see that he's a bit of a joker. But, I mean, he's focused on what he's doing. And I think it did wear on him a bit last year that his daddy was putting his foot in his mouth for him. You know what I mean? So right. It's good that he's keeping his mouth shut. I think LeBron did have something to do with that. I also think Magic Johnson had something to do with that. Like, look, hey, man, we want you on this team. But if your dad's going to continue to do this stuff, we're going to ship you out of here the first chance we get. So he was still trying to find his footing, with LeBron. But I think ultimately he just needs to be a little bit more aggressive because there's points where you're like, even when he misses threes, it's good to see him shooting them, with like, he's not just catching it and thinking about it. He's catching and shooting the way you should, like in rhythm and he's not hesitating. But the problem that we're seeing with Lonzo is where he's being effective. And this is also kind of plays a little bit off on Ingram too. A guy like Kyle Kuzma is looking like a good fit with LeBron because his game is suited to backdoor cuts and spot up threes. Guys like Lonzo and guys like Ingram haven't maybe gelled the right way or are finding their footing with LeBron because they need the ball in their hands. So one of those two, in order for the Lakers and for them, individually to kind of get to the next level, they have to learn how to play without the ball a lot more. And I think that comes with coaching too. So, I mean, Luke Walton's got to work with these guys and say, all right, you might not be as effective sitting there in the corner spotting up and shooting threes, but you can hit Lonzo for some backdoor alley-oops. He's got big ups. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You've seen them do that. And so put him into different positions where, you might not be maximizing his strength and what he's totally used to in terms of having the ball in his hand, but put him in some other positions where he could succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to develop that confidence, and that's what it's coming down to. He had a shot. And I don't remember if this was in the Charlotte game or if this was against Washington, but he had a shot. It was a corner three, and the ball was in his hands it was just a quick catch and shoot. And what we've been seeing from Lonzo so much recently is a catch and then pause for a beat and then he shoots. Like you can tell in his head, the shot is kind of his second or third option, and he's kind of taking it almost because he has to, because he's so open that he has to shoot it. Whereas on this one that he took, he fired it up there with purpose. He fired it up there. There's a difference between shooting to make it and shooting not to miss. And I feel like a lot of the times Lonzo's shooting not to miss. He doesn't want to fire up the air ball, so he's trying to be really careful and make sure that he's at least close. Whereas when he fired up this shot, he wasn't thinking about it. He just let it fly, and it was nothing but the bottom of the net. I think that's what Lonzo's got to figure out. He's got to figure out the mental side of it. How does he get that aggression and that confidence every single game? And again, he's 21. He's a kid playing at an NBA level. That's incredibly tough to do, and it does take time. And sometimes in the NBA, patience does pay off. We've seen that time and time again with players who just need a little bit more time to really fully develop. You think of like CJ McCollum, right? Or James Harden. These are guys who came into the league and struggled at first, and now they're tearing it up. So, you know what? I would say don't lose total hope on Lonzo Ball, but I understand the frustration too from a lot of people who aren't seeing that growth from him. And it's the same thing with Ingram, who just aren't quite seeing that growth from last year just yet. But that doesn't mean it's not coming.
Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, you can't sit there and say, well, he's a bust now. You know what I mean? He's 21 years old and he stinks because he's not scoring 20 a game. Like, no, you mentioned guys like Harden. A lot of NBA players take time to find their groove and take time to become dominant and really justify their draft position. Some of these guys. So you have to be patient with them. But at the same time, you're 100% right. Like, he had that one play against Charlotte where he split the defenders off the screen and then he just came in and crammed it. And then he gave a look to this. I don't know who he was looking at in the crowd there, but he gave a look, gave a little bit of a flex, and you're like, you know what? That's what you want to see. He had a lot more charisma too when he was playing at UCLA. He was bouncy, he was jumping, and just his motions and everything. He'd catch an alley-oop and dunk it, and he'd have a little twirl in, when he's coming down to the ground. Like, he had swagger, and you're not seeing as much swagger from him now. And I don't know what has gone into his mind to make him feel like that, because I didn't see much of it last year too. So he's got to get back to playing at that level where he feels like he's the man on the team, although he's not by title. That helps, you know what I mean, because you're not going to be with LeBron, but that makes a big difference. Like, when you're playing with guys who you're better than, like you were when he was at UCLA, he had this aura and this, and I don't want to say it was arrogance, because it was confidence, right? Yeah. There's a fine line between the two, and he was confident in himself and he carried himself that way. And then when he came to the NBA, you can't be so humble to the point that you're not playing your game. So, and I do think that about him. I think he's a humble, quiet guy, and he's not overbearing in terms of his personality, but he needs to get back to that. You know what? I can play too, and I have a lot to bring to the table, and then start playing with that arrogance and start playing with that charisma that he is, or confidence, sorry, I didn't say arrogance, but that charisma that he had. And I think that'll help him get to another level.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that he's got to be able to find that confidence. You mentioned that play where he splits the double, and that was coming off of a LeBron pick, by the way, that when he had the nice little crossover, and then Lonzo attacked the rim hard and then kind of flexing at the crowd. Yeah, that's exactly what that's probably, yeah, I think that is probably my favorite Lonzo Ball moment so far with the Lakers. Was that play? I think that was
sure,
it.
Man. I mean,
definitely this season, but I mean ever.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not in shape like Lonzo, but when I saw that, I gave a little bit of a flex too. I realized I shouldn't be doing that at that point, but I mean, I got into it as well, right? Like, I was like, it's like, it just makes you feel like, yes, like, let's go. And I think that woke up the team, because I saw, LeBron's Instagram posts afterwards, talking about the fact that they had two people, teammates getting triple doubles. I think it was since Jason Kidd and Vince Carter, right? Was that the last time it happened?
In 07.
And 07, yeah. So you see that, and it's like, to me, I think LeBron really likes Lonzo too, and he does see the potential there. But I think Lonzo's getting in his own way some of the time with the mental aspect of the game. Physically, he has all the tools. If he can just put everything together mentally and deliver on all the things that the potential he has, as well as all the things his daddy said he's going to do, and Magic Johnson said he's going to do. So he's a bit culpable for that as well. I think you'll start to see him start to turn a corner and become better. But don't judge Lonzo just yet. I think you got to give him at least 3 years in the league before you say, all right, it's time for you to make a leap to becoming maybe not a superstar, but a star in the NBA.
Yeah. It takes time, not something that's easy. And so that's, I guess that's what we want to caution when we're talking about these young guys. And again, that pressure is on to win now because LeBron James is there, but Lonzo isn't 25 or 26. Neither is Ingram. These guys are 21, just barely. It takes time. It really does. Real quick before we finish up here, Rajon Rondo, about to come back. We talked about Brandon Ingram coming back, Rondo coming back as well. I'm kind of excited, actually, to see what he can do with this bench unit. It's felt kind of disjointed. Lonzo's had to pick up some extra minutes, and we've seen Lance Stevenson, point guard, a little bit more than I'm comfortable we've seen enough of that. Any minutes of Lance Stevenson, point guard, I'm not too comfortable with. Although Lance does make his plays every now and then. We've even seen Svi Mikhailuk bring the ball up a few times. LeBron handling some of the point guard duties, but overall, I'm excited to see what Rondo can do with this second unit. If he can kind of whip them into shape, if he can give them a little bit more consistency. I think that him coming back could be a nice boost for a Lakers team that really kind of feels like they need it right now.
You know what? When we talk about we want to see a little bit of playoff Rondo, and if he can come out with once every 2-3 games,
that's a whole different Rondo.
That's fantastic to see. Yeah, that's a whole different Rondo. But he, you know what? He was effective in the time he was playing this season as well. He's dropping 8 points a game. More of a creator. He always has been ever since he played with Boston. He came into the league. He's averaging 6 assists this year too. So I agree with you. I think he needs to kind of facilitate, because you are seeing a little bit of a drop off, especially those first 4 or 5 minutes of when LeBron comes off the court in the rotation in the second quarter. You're seeing a bit of a drop off from the team offensively. It's not as fluent, and the half court set especially isn't moving. So I think I'm excited to see what Rondo brings. Maybe that adds a layer of pressure to Lonzo too, because if you remember, Rondo did start over him in the beginning of the year. But overall, I mean, I think Rondo's been a fantastic addition to the team. I think a lot of the guys like him. They say he's like a player coach. He knows everything and sees what's going on in the court. So you're right. If he can kind of wake up that second unit and maybe get guys like Josh Hart and Brandon Ingram going a little bit more on the offensive end, it's a win-win situation for them. And now, you know what? There's going to be no more excuses for the Lakers to struggle now. You know what? They're sitting at 18-12. They're starting to get their main guys back. Rondo and Ingram really are two of their best 7-8 guys. They're playing a lot of minutes. So the team now should start to gel and go on a run. There's no excuses after this.
Yeah, you know what? I think that Rondo is going to provide that stability that they need, that, like you mentioned, a coach on the floor. And this is a strange stat, but when you look up the Lakers and you look at their three-point shooting, right now their best three-point shooter statistically is Mo Wagner. Now, obviously, super small sample size, so we can kind of throw that out. The next guy, though, is Rajon Rondo.
Wow.
He's next on. I mean, he's shooting 43% from three. Again, though, a small sample size alarm, because he got suspended for a few games for the fight. Then he got hurt, so he hasn't played all that many games. So I don't expect him to shoot 43% from three all season long or anything. But this guy's also a better shooter than people give him credit for. Everybody thinks he's a total non-shooter. I think he's a reluctant shooter, and I think that's part of the problem. But when he does shoot, he's fairly efficient. So I think that he can actually help in that regard as well if he's willing to pull the trigger.
Yeah, he was. I mean, when he played on Boston, I mean, he never shot better than, I think he only had one season where he shot better than 30% from three-point line. Last season, even with New Orleans, he played 65 games. He was hitting 33%. So he's not a bad option from out there. He's obviously worked on that part of the game. So there's hope there for Lonzo, right? If you're sitting there saying, hey, he needs to work on his three-point shooting, trust me, if you look at Rondo's stats, he was a terrible three-point shooter when he started off with Boston. He slowly climbed up to being a respectable three-point shooter. And I think you're right. You know what? He brings a dimension to that offense from the second unit that he can create something. And he has the potential to go off for 15, 20 points and dish out 15, 20 assists. So he's one of the guys you definitely want. When they signed him, I thought he was going to be a huge addition in the offseason. I know some people laughed, but I was like, damn, that's a pretty good signing, especially you're getting him on a 1-year deal. So I think the Lakers, having him back healthy, it gives them a new dimension to that team that really on the offensive end, they've been missing since they've lost, even though they played pretty well since he's been out with injury. I think it's going to help the team, and they're going to get a whole lot better with his return.
Yeah, definitely. Hoping so. Hoping that he can come back fully healthy. We know he just got assigned to the South Bay Lakers, and so he's going to be doing a little bit of rehab with them, and then hopefully he'll be back in action with the Lakers. So last thing, Jazz, Austin Rivers, we mentioned him at the top of the show. He's now going to become a free agent. We're assuming he's probably going to clear waivers. He becomes a free agent. Should the Lakers even take a look at him? Yeah,
I think he's an upgrade to me over some of the guys you have at the end of your bench. I mean, okay, here's a question for you. Would you rather have Austin Rivers or KCP?
KCP.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, because I mean, as much as I said that KCP isn't great, I would rather have KCP over Austin Rivers. He's a better three-point shooter, and he brings a little bit more. But I mean, yeah, take a look if you can upgrade your bench, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have to pay Svi meaningful minutes at some point due to injury. So anytime you can upgrade. Now, I don't know if Rivers would want to come here and play in that role where he's 11th, 12th man, but anytime you can upgrade your team, by all means do it.
And I guess here would be maybe you do it just for this factor. If the Lakers were to bring in Austin Rivers, and as you said, I would keep KCP. Rivers isn't a great 3-point shooter. I wouldn't expect him to get a ton of minutes, right? But if you bring him in, after buying out Tyson Chandler and buying out Austin Rivers, that would mean that Robert Sarver would then be paying somewhere north of $20 million for two guys to play for the Lakers.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to put any in to get his own arena upgraded there. Look what he's doing. So maybe he's doing the Lakers a favor for all this, but that would really be a stupid thing to say if the reports are true and the rumors. I don't want to say reports, but rumors are true that he didn't want to trade Ariza to the Lakers. Well, he's already a dumbass for doing them a favor anyway, so it kind of suits him as is.
Yeah, I mean that's it would be a funny situation if that is what happened, but we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. I personally wouldn't be surprised to see Rivers go somewhere else, like maybe the 76ers or something like that. I've seen that name thrown about, but we'll see what ends up happening with that. Jas, I think we've covered a ton. We've talked about the young guys. We've talked about this whole trade situation with Ariza. We've talked about what's going on with Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and all of this, and now the return of Rajon Rondo. Thanks so much for hopping on with me, man. Really appreciate it.
Oh, anytime, man. Always look forward to talking hoops with you. So thanks for having me on, and anytime you want me on, don't hesitate to ask.
Sounds good. And guys, make sure that you go check out the post-game show. We do it again on Facebook Live after every single Lakers game. Check us out on there. So head over to the Lakers Nation Facebook page. Make sure you're following it. And then go ahead and check us out, guys. We'll be there live after each show. Throw us your comments. Give us your thoughts. And it's super interactive, so it's a lot of fun. Make sure you check it out. And, of course, head over to iTunes. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to this show. Head to LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. And don't forget, guys, my special request from the beginning of the show that you go ahead and fill out that survey for us. That's go to bit.ly/Lakers survey. So bit.ly/Lakers survey. Fill that out for us. Help us out. Would really appreciate it. Guys, my name's Trevor Lane. You can follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. Guest today was Jas Kang, who helps me host the Lakers Nation postgame show. You can follow him on Twitter at JasKang21. That's it for today, guys. We'll be back next week with a new show. Thanks so much for listening. Till next time. See ya.